So the LG G4 is mainly known for its great camera, but besides of having a great camera, it also is a wonderful smartphone in many other ways. So that's where I, besides of the camera, will focus on in this review. So starting with the design, LG used almost the same design as they did on the G3, which I don't see as a problem because if it ain't broke, don't try to fix it. On the G4 we find the arc design, which means it has a slight bend to it, and because of this being combined with a curved back, the G4 isn't really made to lay on a flat surface and then start using it. I needed to get used to that since I tend to lay my device down on my desk and start texting very often, but eventually you'll get used to it. And the reason why I don't make such a big deal out of it is because the curved design has multiple benefits. The first being when putting it in your pocket. Because of the curve, it really fits good around your leg when being in your pocket, and the result was that I multiple times thought I forgot it somewhere while it actually was just sitting in my pocket. Also, if you're holding the G4 in your hand, it also lays a lot better in your hand than most other flat smartphones, which I do see as being a positive thing. But while talking about the feeling when holding it in your hand, when you look at the size of the G4 you may notice that there are no buttons, and that's because all the buttons are located at the back where you place your finger when you hold the G4. And at first it demanded some getting used to, but after a few hours of usage I got used to it, and I even came to the decision that I like it a lot more that the buttons are located on the back than on the side. It just feels very convenient, and it also makes it a lot easier to hold the G4 in one hand. The G4 also has a removable backplate, and you can get it in two options. The plastic one, which I have here, and a leather version, which I think will provide you of even more grip, but will age over time, which can be seen positive as well as negative. Removing the backplate isn't too difficult, and after doing so you also have the option to switch batteries, which is actually quite handy, but more on that later. And you also can expand your storage with a micro SD card up to 128GB. On the front you will also find a carbon fiber looking finish, but on my review on it said not for sale, which did make it look a bit less good, but in general I really like the design of the G4. Also on the front of the G4 we'll find a 5.5-inch Quad HD display, which simply said is awesome. It has a pixel density of 538 pixels per inch, and it really can get very bright and colors really come to their right. Viewing angles also were just really good, and even in direct sunlight you could still easily see everything displayed on it. It just really is a joy to use the display on the G4, but unfortunately you won't be able to use it for a long time though. A Quad HD display is very power intensive, and although the G4 has a 3000 mAh battery, it still isn't enough. The battery just drained so fast that it was unbelievable how fast it drained. I didn't even get 5 hours of on-screen time out of it, so having to charge it at least twice a day was something normal with the G4. You do have a battery saver mode built into the G4, which does help preventing the fast battery draining, but it also restricts background activity, which means that you'll need to refresh your apps manually. And because of the fast battery draining, I really see it as a positive thing that you can just swap in a different battery in the G4. The 6-core Snapdragon 808 processor in the G4 isn't too power intensive, which is good, but it did get quite hot very often. Especially when using a mobile network, but also while gaming and even sometimes while watching a YouTube video. But the fact that I used the G4 in a period where it wasn't colder than 25 degrees, I do give it some credit. The G4 also has 3GB of RAM, which combined with the processor gives you a quite smooth experience. The reason I say quite smooth is because it isn't the snappiest experience you can get. I mean, it is super fast, but sometimes when opening apps it just took way too long to open them. But this is just a minor issue since after opening the app everything ran very smooth. The G4 is running Android 5.1 with LG's Optimus UX 4.0 skin on top of it, and I liked it, but sometimes it was just too much. I mean, I like most of the skinned icons, but sometimes it really was just too much. It does follow the material design language, and I like the bright colors, but sometimes the icons were better kept stock. The skin also brings a lot of cool and handy features, but LG didn't always put enough attention to the details. For example, when receiving a message with the stock app you get a notification window on your home screen, but it doesn't fill the whole screen and you just can't move it. I see this as a negative thing, but it still is very handy though. You also have a dual window feature to multitask, but you only have a limited amount of supported apps, so you won't be able to use all of the apps you want to. Then you also have the smart settings, which really looked very promising, but unfortunately I didn't manage to get it working due to not being able to set my home location. You also have the Q-Slide feature, which lets you open pre-installed apps like the calculator app as an app on top of another one. Better said, open apps desktop style, and I found this quite handy. The feature I did use a lot is a knockout feature, which lets you choose a knock pattern which you can even use when the display is turned off. It wasn't always very responsive and it did tend to say my knockout was wrong, although it wasn't, but it is a nice and more secure way than a code to protect your data on your phone. And these are just some of the features the G4 brings. And just to note, it also did irritate me quite a lot that I couldn't replace the stock browser by Chrome, but in the end the stock browser wasn't that bad. On the back you'll also find the speaker of the G4, and I really think the speaker is placed very unfortunate since you will easily cover it, but it does sound very good. It can get very loud without hurting your ears and it still lets you hear the song in a decent way. So thumbs up for a speaker on the G4. But now the camera. On the front we have an 8 megapixel camera which is great for selfies and even supports recording in 1080p. But I'm not interested in this camera because on the back we find a beast of a 16 megapixel camera. And I'm already gonna say this, it is the best camera I ever used on a smartphone, and I even dare to say it's the best camera on a smartphone right now. Right next to the sensor you'll find the true color flash, and left to it you'll find the laser which is used to focus, and like LG says, it really is a lot faster in focusing than most other smartphones. And just a note, because of this laser focus I also could focus on a planet that was visible, so it's pretty cool if you ask me. So in the camera app you have 3 different modes. A simple mode which just lets you focus and immediately takes a picture. Then there also is an auto mode which lets you set a raster, set a timer, let you choose voice commands to take a photo, which actually wasn't very accurate, choose the dimensions of your photo or video and turn on or off HDR. You also have the option to choose between a dual mode which lets you take a picture with a front facing camera and rear facing camera at the same time, a panorama mode and an auto mode which just lets you take a normal picture, and you can also turn on or off your flash. Now in this mode it really is very easy to take pictures with just the right focus, and the picture I took really came out great with the right color balance and focus. There also was a lot of detail in them, but sometimes they display just a bit too much detail. I also used this mode to record video footage up to 4K, but after a few minutes, especially because it was that hot, it just stopped recording since it overheated. But I don't expect anything else when it's over 30 degrees. Now the last mode is a manual mode, and yeah, it really is completely manual. So first of all you can take raw pictures, which is really handy to use the photos in Photoshop, and you also can set your white balance, which is really handy since then you really get the right white balance, which you can't always get in auto mode. You also can use the manual focus without the laser. You can adjust your lighting if you choose not to use AEL, which I do recommend you to do. You also can set your ISO and shutter speed. Now because of all these settings I managed to take some really nice pictures. With the low shutter speed I for example took some pictures that included some light, while with most cameras that wouldn't be possible. The picture wasn't very sharp, but that was because I didn't use a tripod. Then because of the manual ISO settings I also could take a picture from a burning light bulb in the dark, just focus on the bulb itself, and I really found that very cool. And these were just some of the cool pictures I took with the G4. Now to store all of your awesome pictures and other data on the G4 won't be a problem normally, since you have 20 GB available of the 32. It's not that much, but it's still quite a lot, and you can expand it up to 128 GB using a micro SD card, so not having enough storage won't be a problem. So in the end, is the G4 besides of its great camera a great phone? Yes, it definitely is. Although it has a terrible battery and a skin on top of Android, it also has an awesome display, is very fast, plays good in the hand, and in general just is a joy to use. Would I recommend you to buy this device? Yes, but it still does depend a bit. If you don't really like big phones, don't go for a G4. Yes, it isn't much bigger than the iPhone 6, but it's still quite big. If you don't mind a big phone, just go buy it. And if you like to take nice pictures but don't want to carry around the DSLR all the time, the G4 really won't disappoint you. So guys, I guess this was my review of the LG G4. A massive thank you to LG for making this video possible, and if you enjoyed this video be sure to press that subscribe button to see more upcoming content, and be sure to leave your thoughts on the G4 in the comments down below. Like always guys, thanks for watching and I will catch you in the next video. Peace.